you'll be able to transfer to your classroom when you go back in the fall. So we're looking at this with a lens of you're going to be able to use this past this time of distance and online learning. Okay, so if you don't know who I am, I'm just going to show that real quick. And if this is kind of your first meeting with me, that's my contact information. I'm an ed tech from JCISD, and I've got all the Google certifications. Feel free to ask about any Google questions. Since this is a Google Classroom training, we're going to have a lot of Google things, so don't hold back. Our target today is we're going to use an LMS in conjunction with best practices to really create an effective online learning experience for your students. And that is kind of the lens we're going to take today. Okay, so what is an LMS? Does anyone know in the background here, what's an LMS? What does it stand for? Learning Management System. Yes, Destiny, thank you. So the goal of an LMS is to manage the learning for your students and to hopefully make your teaching much easier and more convenient as far as the logistics. When I was a 6th grade teacher, I taught English language arts and some social studies in there. It was an ancient history class, I think, that I taught as well for a number of years. And the first couple of years, I just remember being at the copy machine and being there very often to just stand in line, make my packets, make my worksheets. And oftentimes, if I wanted to kind of adjust or redo something the day of, it was very difficult because I had already wasted paper and I'd already wasted time kind of printing and planning these things out. So learning management systems are supposed to make those elements and kind of move them more digitally so you have an easier time. This is kind of a definition of blended learning, which is hopefully what you can incorporate in the fall. And blended learning, if you are unfamiliar with it, this is kind of a definition we came up with. I was in a big training with a lot of administrators, superintendents, some ed tech specialists, instructional coaches, and teachers, and there was a big blended learning movement. And this is kind of what we came up with. So as you're reading this definition, you can kind of see some of the really positive things here, right? It's supposed to leverage in face-to-face teaching with digital learning, and that gives both teachers and students kind of flexibility. They're not confined to the 4 walls within the classroom. They can extend their learning outside of the 4 walls. So the goal of learning management system is to allow you to do that too, to differentiate by having flexible pace and place where they learn. Here's a chart that kind of shows you the traditional instructional model and the digital age learning model. You can see on the left that everything, if you're kind of skimming through, it's limited. It's in the classroom. That the teacher is the show, where you're giving this instruction at one place and one place only. You might send a packet at home for homework or something like that. Whereas if you look at the digital age learning model, there is really no constraint. Learning can happen anytime. It's personalized in the sense that students can go at their own pace. It's student-centered in the sense that they take ownership of their learning, and the teacher kind of just guides and facilitates the experience. Digital content is very easily to find and give to your students, and especially to create. Assessments are right in the learning management system, or whatever you're doing, so that it's nice and flexible. And then, of course, you have access to parents as far as some type of portal. You can email them or contact them through a chat or something like that. And then, of course, any type of projects or project-based learning is very easy to facilitate as well. So looking at all that, everyone's kind of in between the 2 models. And I think good teaching is a combination of both, to be honest. But a learning management system, other elements of why you would use it on the technical side, colleges use learning management systems. Universities do. More and more high schools will. Middle schools are starting to use it as well, and a lot of elementaries. If you go around the nation, they use some type of learning management system. Usually learning management systems are really secure or require students to log in, or they require a code. So it's really safe, it's a controlled environment, and you're not exposing them to a lot of outside threats or dangers. there's some type of kind of welcomed classroom homepage. That's where you have the communication. That's where everything is at hand for them to kind of grab and to kind of focus them on their learning for the week. So also, though, you have a classroom content page where they access all their learning. So that's really nice. And in that learning, you have the option to create, build, and assign any type of assignments, quizzes, and anything like that. So there are also other things that you can add in there that are very popular. Of course, Google Classroom is the best with G Suite. There's Nearpod if you like to do a little more lecture style. There's YouTube, of course, which is a wonderful resource, and a lot of other things as well. Okay, we're gonna get right into it and go to Google Classroom. A couple ways to get to Google Classroom, classroom.google.com right up top, or you can go to your app launcher here. Sometimes it's called the waffle menu. If you click on that, the Google Classroom icon is right there. Any questions about what we've kind of discussed before we get started and get right into Google Classroom? Excellent. And again, if you do have questions, you're just joining us, Paul is right in the chat. He's going to answer anything you need. So feel free to use the chat and put questions in there, and I'll try to address them as well. I want to get the chance. If you want to ask, you can unmute your mic and kind of wait for a good moment to ask, and especially if you think it's something people would benefit from. Okay, so we have this dashboard here. I have a ton of classes, you can see. But we're going to start simple. We're going to start with a new class and go from there and kind of just build. So in order to do that, when you're at classroom.google.com, or you've used the waffle menu / apps launcher to get to Google Classroom, you should have something similar. If it's your first time going into Google Classroom, it may ask you if you're a teacher or a student. Just click on teacher, and that way you can create and join classes. If you were to click on student, then you could not create a class. So if that was an issue in the past or something like that, contact IT, submit a support ticket, and we'll get that fixed. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this plus button here. And most things in Google Classroom will be a create or plus button. As the teacher, I can click on that, and I have two options like I talked about earlier. I've got my join class and I have my create class. If I click on join class, I can join another teacher's course or something like that to help them out, or a professional class. Sometimes they're run through Google Classroom for adult learning. And but right now we'll just go and click create class. So when I click create class, it's going to give me the logistical details, and I can enter it in. Class 101, section 101, subject class. But if you saw earlier, if I started to type things in, sometimes they have different types of pre-populated options. Room, we're just going to be online. And then I'm going to click create once all of my logistics are done. You only just need a classroom name, and that's it. But once you have that, just click create. And it's going to take a bit. Perfect time for a coffee break. Okay, excellent. One sip of coffee was all it took. It was pretty quick. You can see here that from a glance, it's pretty empty, but there's still some things that they put in there for you. The first thing that comes to mind, and it's something that's more important than you think, is this banner. It's probably something you saw right away. It's a nice image. It displays the name of the class, the section, the class code. But I like to encourage teachers to kind of choose something that's appropriate, because it's the first thing that students will see, and it kind of grabs them like a hook sentence in a paragraph, right? So in order to change your banner or theme, what you do is you kind of hover over your banner. You can see to the right, there are two options. There's a select theme and upload photo. This banner is a unique size. It's kind of stretched out in a long rectangle. So some images that you have, if you upload, kind of look funny. So I'll give you an example. I've clicked on upload photo. I can choose an image or just drag it over. So I'll just click on select the photo from my computer. And I think I have one that might work well. And I can open it. Okay, so you can kind of see that the banner itself, depending on what kind of image you have, it has to be in a nice rectangle form, and sometimes doesn't work well, but this one works pretty well. So I'm going to select the class theme, and it's going to change it for me. Any photo you upload will have this weird shadow over it, so that's something to consider. If you click on Select Theme, actually, which is above the upload photo, it gives you kind of Google's really nice set of designs that they have for you. They've got a general, if you're ELA or history, they've got some really nice and colorful ones, math and science, arts, sports, and then other. So you've got a couple of different options. I'm going to go with one of the nice Google ones because I think it looks really great, and I'm just going to select that theme. Not that the banner for the JPS web series isn't nice. It's just this looks a little bit better without that shadow. So I've got my nice banner set and ready to go. That's the first thing people see, so it's important to kind of choose. Okay, from here, though, there's some other things you might want to take note of. There's this little icon right here. It expands it a little bit, and it shows a little more of the class. Now, that's something students can do, of course, but that's something you can do just to see what that would look like. There's other things here to the left that you can see. Right here, we have class code, and that's the code students will use to join. You saw kind of earlier that when I was in classroom.google.com, that there's a join button, right? When I click on it, the other options, join class. Students would only see that. They would only see join class, and then they would type in that class code. So if you sent it to your students, they could join that way, and that's the class code. All they would need to do is go ahead and just copy and paste it if they wanted. If you were teaching this in class and you're getting students on for the first time, you can click on that little display icon, and it'll make it nice and big. You can copy it from there as well. You can even make it bigger. And then when you display this on the wall, you can see that it's very easy for students to copy in and join the class this way. Any questions about that so far, the class code or anything like that? Okay. There's another new feature here. It's called the Google Meet Classroom Meet link. I'm going to kind of talk about that a little bit later as we kind of build our understanding for Google Classroom, but that'll be there. I'll refer to it later, but keep in mind you can start a Google Meet right in Google Classroom. All right, so we're at what we call the stream. You can see up at the top there are 4 different tabs, and then also options to the very right, that little settings gear or cog. So you don't have that many places you can go in Google Classroom. It's very simple, and it's very streamlined so that teachers can pick it up pretty easily. We're in the stream right now, and we're in class 101, and we have all these options here, the settings here, and to the left, we have little 3 lines, or called the hamburger menu. If you click on that, you can go to all your other classes. You have other settings here. And of course, that is available for you. But we're going to talk about the stream right now because we're on it currently. The stream itself, it is a place where you share updates. It's a place where you share announcements and whatnot. And all you have to do to share something with your class is start and click right here where it says share something. I can do a little welcome message if I want. Welcome to this week. We are going to be working on chapter 5 and whatnot. And when I do that, I will post this here, and they can see it right away. If I wanted to just work on all of my announcements and work on all of the things I wanted to address to my student, I can click on this little triangle, and then I can actually schedule the post or save it as a draft for later, but I'm going to post it right now so you can kind of see what it looks like. So just like that, that's what it looks like. If I do another message just so that you can see, next week we will be working on factors of 25. And then I'm just going to post it right now. So I've got 2 announcements right here. You saw that the announcements kind of appear from newest up top to kind of not as new on bottom. I like to put whatever announcement is most important up top. So I always control it by clicking these 3 dots. And that's where I get to move where the announcements will appear. Unfortunately, on the stream, you can't actually move it by clicking on it, so that's a little annoying. But all you need to do to move things up to the top is click on the 3 dots and click Move to the top. But also from here, you can edit, delete, or copy the paste. So I'm going to move it to the top, and it's just going to switch that announcement right to the top. That's what students see. Now, something to keep in mind, too, is as you're creating different materials, the stream is going to update your students on everything you create. So it can get a little bit messy. And I'll show you what I mean by going to another class where I have a lot of announcements. So I've got my ELA 6th grade first hour right here. And I've got a lot of announcements. It's not that much. But I also have a ton of class work items. And as you create your class work items, it's actually going to show up in the stream. So I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. So I'll kind of show you as I change the settings a little bit. In the stream, you can see that now I've got a bunch of extra things. I've got Dubui posted a new assignment via Kami PDF1. Dubui posted a new material Untitled May 11th. And it's just every time I post something. So it can get a little bit messy. That's all the classwork that I've added. The notifications are on so that students can see everything. It's a little bit messy right now. So my announcements get lost in that. Even though I have an announcement up top, everything else students can kind of see and go through. So what I like to do is kind of control that and turn that off. And the way you do that is you go to the top right. There's a gear icon. If you click on that, there are a lot of settings here that you can kind of work on. Like earlier, we had class logistics and details. You can change that from here. Your class code that we talked about, you can actually change that and reset it from here if you wanted. The stream, that's the one we're on right now. And right now, I have students can post and comment and whatnot. So actually, students can actually comment and post on the stream if I let them. If I didn't want that and I only wanted that spot for just me, and I would switch it to only teachers can post or comment. The third one is class work on the stream. So this is where all of the materials that you put, you saw earlier that it was kind of messy, everything appeared. If you click on that, you have the option to show any attachments and details from your class work. You can show condensed notifications, meaning just the title, but I just like to hide it because it just gets too much. So I'll click Save. And from here, I can see that only my announcements are on the stream and anything like that. So any questions so far in regards to the stream? I see that there were some questions as I was talking, and I think someone answered them. Yes, awesome. OK, thanks, Destiny. OK, so now as we're going through this Google Classroom, you can kind of see that the stream would be a good place to do a nice welcome message or an announcement or anything like that. So I've got one right here. It's the first thing students see past my banner and whatnot. So I've got some other multimedia for them as well. But that is the stream. Any questions about the stream? OK. So we're going to continue and move on to the next tab, which is kind of the class work tab. And that's where you kind of want to encourage students to grab their work, is in the class work tab. The other thing you see here that we didn't quite talk about is the left. We have a upcoming work is due. So if you have anything with a due date, it'll appear right in here. So that is, I don't have anything with a due date in here, but you can kind of see students will see it. You'll see it once you set due dates. All right, so I'm in the classwork tab right now. There's nothing so far, but there are a couple of different things you want to kind of take note of. You have some new options here. You have that kind of plus create button here. You got the Google Meet, like I talked about earlier. You can start a classroom, and I'll show you that later. You have a Google Calendar that's just set for this class, so that any type of assignments on there with a due date, or any type of special things with a due date or date on them will appear in this calendar. And that's a calendar for you and your students and no one else. And then there's a class drive folder. All the materials you create in Google Classroom, they'll create a class folder for you. So if I click on class drive folder, it's actually created a folder for me in my drive called Classroom, and it's created a folder in my Classroom folder called Class 101, which is what I named this class as. So everything you create, they're going to make that, they're going to put a copy of that right in the class drive folder. Everything your students work on is going to appear in that class drive folder for you to kind of look at too, if you want to look at it from the drive. And I'll kind of show you that a little bit later as well. Okay, so we're going to start creating now, and by clicking that create button. It's very easy. There's really only one button you can click on to make things. So when I click on it, I have a bunch of these different assignments. I have an assignment. This Kami assignment is something different that I'll touch on later, but it's something you have to add. They have a quiz assignment. You have questions. You have materials that you can post. You can reuse old posts and whatnot that you have in other classrooms. So it's kind of convenient for you if you've started building already. And then you have topic. And a topic is usually what I tell teachers to start with. It's kind of their label of learning. And I'll start by creating a topic. So when you create a topic, really all it is a big title, a big banner where you organize all your materials. A lot of teachers like to do that in units. They like to do that in weeks, like week 1, week 2, or unit 1, central idea, unit 2, setting evidence. If you're in the elementary, you might want to do it in your subjects like math, science, or social studies, or language arts. So, but I'm going to do unit 1, and we'll go with citing evidence. And I'll add that. And all it is just a big label of learning. And maybe I'll add my other topic. I know what unit 2 is. Theme and whatnot. And so unit 2 will be theme. So here you can see kind of the same deal like as a stream. Whatever I put in in latest will appear at the top. But unlike in the stream, in Classwork, you can kind of click on things and drag them wherever you want. So that's kind of nice. And the only things I have right now are the label of learning. And it's kind of nice because it gives them an option to just see things by the topics as well. So if you see to the left, I've got unit 1 that I can click on. If I click on unit 1, it'll show them everything from unit 1. If I click on unit 2, it'll show them anything from unit 2. And to see what a full class looks like, this is kind of one that I built up. You can see my topic first is important resources. They're resources I want students to always have access to. Something maybe like a reference for science, maybe some equation sheet for math, or something like that. You can put in important resources, prepositional phrases, or something like that for ELA. Social studies, you're on your own just because there's so many different topics in social studies. Okay, so we have discussions right here to the second one. And then we have, of course, my unit 1 that I've created, a unit 2 that I've created, and then I've created a section where they can have options to do if they're done with your work. So I've got some things there that are extensions and things that I think they might enjoy working on when they're done with my regular work up top. And again, if they were looking at all this, it might be really overwhelming. So there's always that option to the left to filter their work. So if they wanted to just focus on their unit 1 and that's what they're on, they can click on it and they would see all the unit 1 work that they have to do. Any questions about topics so far? Okay, now I can start creating some different things in my Google Classroom. And again, it's just as simple as clicking that create button. And I'll just go down the list and click on assignment. So when I click on assignment, I've got a lot of these different options right here. And I have, of course, the title that I can give it. I'm going to give it, I'll do a work 1 and use 2 or 3 vocab words. And then I've got my instructions right there. Now, once I have my title and instruction done, at the bottom, I have 2 different options that I can do for this assignment. I can click on Add, and I can add any type of material I want from my Google Drive. I can link things as far as websites are concerned. I can put in that website link. I can add a file from my computer, and I can add a YouTube video. So when I click on my drive, any type of Google file I can add there for them to see, or to edit, or to view, or to get a copy in themselves. So I'll click on that Google Drive, and I can see it looks just like what most things look like when I upload them via the drive. I'll click on my drive, and from here, it's literally just a preview of my drive, everything that's in it. And then I can search for things too. If my drive is kind of messy, I can search for things. There are nice filtering options. But I'll just add a document. I'll add this essay, basic units of life essay. I'm going to add that to Google Doc. And then it appears like this for students to click on. And right now, the file is set on students can view file. That means they can only look at it. They can't edit it or anything. They can only read it. So that option would be really good if you wanted them to read something you had on your drive, say a paper or a news article or something you had. But then if you wanted them to actually edit it, so you had a class project where you want all the students to edit on one document, you can click on students can edit the file, and everyone who clicks on that document can start editing it. They can start typing in it, adding images, whatever. But the one you'll probably use most is make a copy for each student. So if I click on that, and once I press the assign button, every student that clicks on the link will get their own personal copy. They can edit it, they can type in it, it's their copy. And I believe it should say once they click on it, so-and-so's essay, because this is titled essay. So they get it, and once they are finished with whatever you give them as far as document, they can turn it into you, and then you can make comments on their document from there. And it'd be easy to kind of just keep track of that. So that is the one I used the most as a 6th grade teacher, and the one that teachers use most often. Any questions about this so far? Okay.
Question, dude.
Yes, sure.
Hey, when you put multiple things into an assignment, I ran into an occasion where I was putting maybe like a document for the kids to read with a follow-up Google form quiz. It seemed like when I put 2 artifacts in one assignment, I couldn't use the quiz function in the quiz where it would grade it for me.
Okay. Now, there could be other factors of that, Charles. I'm glad you brought it up. It could have been that in the quiz, when you click on create, right?
Yes.
So when you create a form, that's specifically just a form. So you would want to just go with create quiz and then add stimuli that way. So right now it's just set as an assignment, so it won't move over any score or anything. I have to actually score it. So I'll show you the quiz assignment in a little bit. But if I wanted to do a quiz, I wouldn't do it after I added my document. I would have to go back and start a quiz itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I found that too. If the quiz sits alone independently, then the grading function would work. But when it was with something else, it wouldn't. So there's no work around that.
There is. I would put the stimuli in the actual quiz, like link it in the quiz.
Oh, good call.
And that way they can click on it or they can read it from the quiz. But yeah, there's some funky formatting issues sometimes that kind of override it. So, but there is that workaround.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We can go over that too in a little bit. But assignments, usually you'll want to just reserve for different type of independent work that involves any type of Google Doc. So if I wanted to add another document, like a slide, I can do that, and it would easily make a copy for them as well. So I'll just click on this actually intro to Google Classroom. And of course, I have the option to have students make a copy. They can edit, review themselves. I can also, if I wanted to create something offhand now, I could. I could create, say, a Google drawing if I wanted to. And then I'll open that up in a new tab. And I'll put title, draw your learning here. And I will start them off with one box where they have to draw in or something like that. And then I'll be done. So I'll click out. And the drawing should update in a little bit. So I have 3 different things right now that students will have to finish. It'll make a copy for each student for every one of those, the Google Doc, the slide, the drawing, and it'll be good. To the right are my logistical details. I've got this one here under the 4, who's this assignment for. I can click on that and assign it to multiple classes if I wanted. I could assign it to different type of students. Like if I wanted certain students to do this specific assignment, I can assign it to those students from here. Let me show you with actual students in the class what that might look like. Okay, so this one right here, I've got, if I go to edit, sorry. This is for all students so far, but if I wanted just CJ to work on it, I can click save, and CJ would be the only one to have this assignment. So that's kind of what it looks like with students. Okay, let's set at all. This is quite a hefty assignment, but I don't think it's worth 3 or 100. I'll just put it 30, 10 points for each little part of here. A due date, I can give it a due date if I wanted. Maybe it'll be next week. Keep in mind that if you set a due date, if it's past that, the assignment will be marked as late and missing. So just keep in mind if you want a due date, that's going to affect it. Topic, and this is where we can put our assignments into that label of learning that we created earlier. If you recall, I created Unit 1 citing evidence and Unit 2 theme. I'm going to put this one under citing evidence. And of course, now that I've got an extra option of adding a rubric if I wanted. And this is really nice too. You can create a rubric from here. You can reuse old rubrics, or you can import rubrics that other people have made. So I'm just going to start by creating a rubric. And it's just like what you think a rubric would be. It's got the kind of point scale here, level. So we'll say needs work because it's a 1. And description, you did not do a good job. Try again, or something like that. That's obviously not a good description, but for time's sake. And once we have that rubric criteria done, you can press the plus and add a new level. So this is 2. Needs less work. And so on and so forth. We've got our different things here. You can add a title, a description of the rubric. The amount of points it's worth is based on what you've written down. And then once you're done, you can save it and use the rubric to grade if you wanted, or you can simply just give them the point total. You've got originality reports right here. And if I clicked on that, what's going to happen is that you can, when you enable this, you get 3 assignments per class that you can do originality reports. So if I click on this one and press continue, my students in this class have, and I have the option to turn that on for 3 different classes. And what that is once students click on the reports, it will scan Google for everything that might be plagiarized in their assignments. So it's kind of a plagiarism checker if you turn that on. And right now it is, I think, unlimited for your students just because of COVID, because of distance learning. But usually you would have in each class 3 different times where you can turn on originality reports. And then it would scan all of Google once your students kind of submit it. Now, if they ever like take that away and they limit you to 3, again, and of course, and obviously my account is limited to 3, but I think you can contact them and you might have the option to get that unlocked during this time. But you would just have to choose wisely. Maybe your big essays or something like that, you turn on originality reports for, and then you can kind of help check for plagiarism and kind of walk and talk to your students about that. Okay, now I've got everything I want for this assignment set and ready to go. Up to the upper top right, I can click assign now, or I can click on the little triangle, say I'm doing some, I've got a work day or whatnot. I can schedule this and when it's actually going to appear for my students. I can save it to the draft and work on it later, or I can discard this and start over. But I'm going to assign it right now so that we have this ready to go. Again, it'd be a good time for a coffee break if you have any coffee. But yeah, this time is taking a little bit longer because I've got, a few different things here and whatnot. But anyway, as I click that and whatnot, it's going to put it right where I tell it to. And if I have a bunch of different assignments that I've added, I can reorder them. Ordering and organization is important for students just because the things they see first can be advantageous to order it that way. But as I post, I can see that having enough materials for my students to work on oftentimes can be nice, because then there's that pacing. Your students can move on if they're really advanced, and if they need more time, they can hang back and whatnot. Let's see if that's done. It is not quite yet. There's an error, and sometimes that happens. So let's see if that'll work. But anyway, I'll go to this different class right here, and as that's loading so you can kind of see it, I'll start talking about the other things that you can create. So that create button, I'm just going to click on that create button. And the next thing, I'm going to skip Kami assignment, and that's another training that we're going to offer. But pretty much what that is, it allows students to edit PDFs. So if you have any PDF files, that might be a good thing for you to keep in mind in the future as we offer that training. But students and you as well can edit PDFs. So I imagine some of you have PDF files that you may use or have printed out in the past. You can take advantage of that by Kami. But anyways, we'll go right into the quiz file, or quiz assignment rather. And when I open that up, it has a lot of different things in here you might have noticed, but mostly everything is the same. I've got the title, quiz 1, got my instructions, don't cheat. Just kidding, that's a terrible instruction. Never say don't cheat. It's all right, so at the bottom, I've got my blank quiz. Now, it's going to create a quiz for me right here. And then you'll notice at the bottom it says Classroom can import grades for assignments. Grade importing automatically limits each form to 1 response per student. So when you import the grades right into your Google Classroom, it means it's got a self-graded quiz, and it's going to go right into your grades, a grade book, so you don't have to grade it by hand. Google Classroom has its own grade book. So I have that on. Another option is locked mode on Chromebooks. And you might have questions about that. What is locked modes? If you toggle that on, what happens if your Chromebooks that you give to your students is managed by IT or something like that? You can turn that on. And when students click on the quiz, they can't go anywhere else until they finish the quiz. So that's something that's also a very good option to set up eventually if you're interested in that. But we're just going to go right into the actual blank quiz. So I'll go right into the blank quiz, and it's just a blank Google form as you see here. Quiz mode is already turned on, so I'm going to give this quiz a name, quiz 1. And then the first question is, what answer is the best? And then from here, and I won't go into it too much, you can kind of change what type of question it is. You have the option to give it a multiple choice, and as many multiple choice answers as you can put in there. You have a checkbox option where students can click 2 or 3 or more answers. You have a drop-down option where students can click on it and their answers appear in the drop-down. You can upload file if you want as far as a stimuli. You have these that don't work as well with a quiz feature. Of course, you have a short paragraph. You have short answer and paragraph as well. If you want it to grade, I find that the options that work best with self-grading are these 3: multiple choice, checkbox, and drop-down. So I'm going to keep it on multiple choice right now. Sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3, and option 4. You can also, if at the bottom you have option, you can click add option. It'll give you more boxes to type in your actual answers. You click add other, and it'll just say other, and they can suggest an answer, but I'll leave that. At the bottom, you have an answer key, and when you click on that, that's when you kind of modify how much it's worth. So this is only worth 1. I can now, since it's on the answer key, select the correct answer. So it's sentence 2. And you can see that a check mark appears. I can also add answer feedback. And this means any incorrect answers, you can have a little kind of message if you want. You got the wrong answer. because whatever reason. And then if you wanted, you can actually add a link to allow them to go to maybe some type of support material to help them understand why that was incorrect. You can add a YouTube video for them to watch and kind of guide them that way. For correct answers, you can also do the same thing. So nice work. It was right because. And that's what they would kind of see as they look at the answers to their quiz once they're done. When you click done, you can kind of see here that it's worth 1 point now, and the right answer is there. You do also have the option to add an image you want. So if you wanted to add images into your quiz and just make, instead of words, images be the options they pick, you have that as well. You can even search by Google if you wanted. Cats. We see, and as it loads the image, that's kind of what it'll look like. Any questions so far about the quiz feature? See, we might have one in the chat. It's easier to jump to hyperlinks supporting docs. Don't require, yes. Okay, Google Forms, the first thing is name. You don't have to do that with the quiz. Yeah, so where it says quiz 1, you don't have to do that. Oh, you're talking about actual name as far as them typing in their name. Yeah, so since this is in the Google Classroom, it should submit their actual, once they click on it, it should be their response, I believe. I've never had to click on name, and it should be fine. Has anyone else found out differently? Yeah, it should be tied right to them, I believe. At least collect their email, I believe. You can double check and always put name if you want, but I find that that kind of messes up the grade feature. So if I put name, it'll kind of sense it as an actual question that you have to grade, especially if you put the answer key. But if you don't click the answer key, I think you should be fine. Okay, so once that's done, so there's another question. Do students also need to download the Google Forms app and other the apps being used on their? Yes, so they do. So I think Google Forms should be fine without the actual app, but for most other things like docs, slides, and sheets, they'll need an actual app for it if they're using like an iPad or an Android device. Okay, so I'm going to give it a due date. Oh, we had one more thing in that quiz to add things that you want them to read. You can, on the very right, you can click add question, import question. You can add text and description. If you had quick things for them to read, like a paragraph or two, you can paste it there. You can add an image. You can add a video. You can add in that text spot where I said read article 1, and then I drag it up before my question, I can actually put a site in there. So if I wanted them to read this specific thing that I created, I can put right in the description right there. And then what happens when they look at this quiz, they read that article 1. They'll read whatever I put there or watch whatever video I put there and then make their answer based on that. So that's a way where you can keep it contained right in the quiz. Okay, another question. So when do students see the answer? Are the answers revealed after the quiz? Yeah, so that's a good question as well. Up at the very top, and I should have kind of talked about this, you have different options that you can choose here. I didn't want to go too much into it because this is kind of a Google Forms type question, but when you click on that settings feature, you have a few different things in here that you might want to take note of. You have, since it's going to go right into your gradebook, it has to be limited to one response. You can collect their email addresses, and this is where you'll know the name, at least by name because of their email. You can restrict to just anyone in JCISD or anyone with a student account. And then where it says quizzes, you have quiz options there. But to your different kind of respondents can, at this button, edit after submission, it allows them to go back, click the back button and kind of edit their answers, but if you go to quizzes, this is where you have options that pertain to the grade. So you can click on where it says release grade immediately after submission, or you can click on later after you have collected the emails and kind of grade things if you want. Now, where it says respondents can see, this is what happens and what they can see right afterwards. So if you want to let them see the missed questions, you click on that. If you wanted to let them see the correct answers, you click on that. If you wanted to let them see the point values, you click on that. And then there's another, what is a specific app that they need to download while using Google Forms or them seeing slides? So in Google, you have a lot of different apps for every one of their apps. So you'll have the Slides app, you have the Docs app, the Sheets app. So what students would have to download is based on what you're going to use mostly. So all those are available for them to download. Okay, now I'll go back to the class. Since we are running short of time, I am going to show you as much as I can before time is done. So I'm going to assign that right now, and I'm going to choose to assign that under Unit 2. And they'll have that quiz assigned. I'll go back to this class, and you see my work is already turned, or from earlier, it's already done. I'm going to create the next portion from here, and it's the question option. Again, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because it's fairly simple. When you click on question, you have all your different options here. I'll ask the question, what was the theme of article or story 1? And then I can allow them to either type in their answer, and maybe I want some evidence. Use evidence from the text. And then that would be good for a short answer. If I didn't want that, I can click multiple choice and give them a multiple choice question now. Maybe that's a quick kind of exit ticket or bell work item or something like that. And I guess short answer can be done the same. And then to the right, all the same kind of different details that you can go through, except there are 2 new ones at the bottom. It says students can reply to each other. If you wanted this as an actual discussion, if you wanted them to kind of engage in each other as far as challenging each other, you can add that, turn it on. You can click on students can edit answer, meaning if they saw a grammar error, they can go back in, edit it, and change it, and whatnot, so you can have that on. I'm going to have them live with their mistakes, so I'm going to check that off. And of course, you can add materials like you do everything else. Say there's a YouTube video you want them to watch about theme for this actual discussion. You can click theme, and yeah, this one looks great. We're going to add it. They're going to watch it in 6 minutes. And again, I can set it so it assigns anytime I want, or I click ask, and it's going to go right into, I haven't put it in the topic yet, but that's okay. I'll add it in 2 where it says theme. And now I can see my icon is actually a question mark. And when I click on it, there are my instructions. What's theme story 1? Use the evidence from the text. But there's a video here. If I click on that video, and the same thing for students, it'll play right in Google Classroom. There won't be an ad or anything at the beginning, so that's kind of nice. But there'll be suggestions as they kind of pause it. So you can see that I searched up some Game of Thrones videos. So they've got some Game of Thrones suggestions for me. So that will happen for your students. And at the end, when it's over, they'll have suggestions as well. So keep that in mind. You won't get advertisements for mostly, but you have suggestions. Okay, so when I click on it as a student, I have the option to view question, and the question appears here. And then students can start adding comments. The theme is ... And then when they submit it, they have the option to reply to each other or edit if you leave it at edit. So it's going to look like this, and I'll show you with a classroom with a lot of different type of comments, so you can kind of see what that looks like. There's actually a course that I run on Google Classroom that walks you through making a classroom and whatnot, but there is an actual question here. I believe it is this one. And I can see that a lot of students have responded and whatnot. They can click on you can click on reply to students, and whatnot. And at the very bottom, what's going to happen is there'll be tags. So if I replied to, say, Nicole, I click on reply, it'll tag her at the bottom. I will kind of submit the answer, and then the students can go through and reply to each other and whatnot. So that is the kind of question discussion feature that you can have as an assignment. It's kind of nice. You can also look at individual student responses if you want by clicking student answers and then grading them that way. So for Cheryl, I can click on her answer right here and then grade her from there. Okay, now going back to the Google Classroom, I'll kind of talk about the other option you have, which is a material. And again, material is very simple. When you click on it, it's just stimuli. It's just things you want them to engage in as far as reading or watching or anything like that. No grade is tied to it. It's just a material, a resource that they click on because you want them to see it or engage in it. And again, you have all your different kind of things that you can add, your Google Drive, link, file, YouTube, you can create from here. Very simple. And the materials just look like this is a material right here. All it is, I've added a video from my Google Drive, and all they do is just click on it and watch it, and that's it. That'd be a good like welcome video or something to put, or a syllabus or something that you want them to just not get a grade for, but you want to give them access to. Okay, any questions about classwork? We kind of went over it fairly quickly, but we do have a few other things to go over before we end our time. Okay.
I got another question for you.
Sure.
So considering a scenario in the fall when we come back that we'll have some sort of, blended learning where kids spend a couple of days at physical school and then a couple of days at home. For those kids who don't have Wi-Fi, but we give them a device, let's say, in this scenario, can they come into the school Wi-Fi, download all this stuff, and then be offline at home to do it?
Yes.
Okay.
So what students can do with at least a Chromebook or iPad or an Android device is Google allows them to access their work offline. So all they have to do is click on that setting in the actual drive. And then if I have time at the end, I'll show you, but they can access their work offline. It's just their most recent work that they've opened, and any work that they've opened, I think, in the last 30 days or something like that. So all they would need to do is go to the school building, hook up to the Wi-Fi, click on the materials they need to click on, and they should have access to that to work on at home. And then they would need to go back to the school if it's an A or B day, and they'll update right in their drive. We have documents that kind of walk you through that, but yes, that kind of addresses somewhat of the equity issue as far as you would have to run your day, like maybe modeling at the beginning of the day, get them into their work, and at the end of the day, the last thing you do might be, okay, everyone open this, this, and this, so you can work on it at home the next day. So that's something that's a really good question, Charles, but that is an option.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem. Quickly, we're going to go to the People tab. From here, you can see that I've got Jessica Buckland as a co-teacher, as a collaborating teacher. She's going to help me build things. At the bottom, I have my students. I have Kathy, and I have CJ right here. I'm CJ's guardian, so I appear right to the right. And then if Kathy doesn't have a guardian, I can invite a guardian here by just an email. For the Google Classroom, you can't invite people outside a consortium, so anyone with a personal email or Gmail won't be able to join this. But for your guardians who aren't in consortium, if you click on that and invite them, every week they're going to get the option of, let me see here, where is it? Guardian summary. So every week they're going to have the option of getting a summary that has missing work or upcoming work or class activity. So any type of announcements, assignments, questions, or anything, they'll get it. So they can schedule it to have a notification each day of their students missing work or what they're doing, or they can have each week. So that you can kind of see here, it's an extensive list. They don't get access to the classroom or anything like that. They just get access to the description of the assignment and when it's due. And if the student has a missing assignment, it'll say missing. So that is the People tab, and that is where you can add different things. Is there a way to invite guardians that are not associated? Yes. So this is Any type of guardian can get an email notification. That's it. They can't join the classroom. To be able to join the classroom, you have to have an ISD, JCISD consortium email, and that's for students and teachers. Okay, and of course you can add your students by if your students use email, they're allowed to use email. I believe it's middle school has kind of like a restricted email, and then high school has unlimited email access. You can add students via email here. Okay, quickly, the grades, very nice grade feature where you can grade right from here. And this will not link to PowerSchool or anything like that, but it replaces your kind of paper grade book. You can grade from here, and then you can put that into PowerSchool or something later. You can quickly go to your different assignments. You can see for your students what's missing at a glance. And once you have enough, you can kind of get a class average of all the different materials. If I wanted to see what CJ specifically is missing or whatnot, I click on CJ, and then I can see that he's been assigned all these assignments, but he's missing a ton as well. This might work well for parent-teacher conferences when you need to pull up kind of evidence, or you need to pull up a different student profiles and talk about them. This is really nice because then you can kind of show them, this is their work here, this is their packet 1 work and whatnot. This is CJ's document that he's been working on. So it's a nice kind of profile to show parents at a parent-teacher conference or a parent meeting or something like that. Okay, that's the grade tab. Another one that I wanted to go over real quickly is the option to do a Google Meet right inside the classroom. You can see now that there's this new button called Generate Meet Link. If I click on that, what's going to happen is it's going to ask me if I want to generate a Meet link. And when I click on that, it's going to show me this Meet link. I can copy it here and send it to people if I want. I can toggle it on or off, meaning students can see it or if they can't, and then I can save it. And all students need to do is go to this link, click on it, they'll open it up, and the Google Meet will begin and start once they're in it. I would maybe do an announcement and say, hey, class, we are going to have a class meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. So they know at 9 a.m. they need to click on that. They can access that from the Classwork tab. And then once you have your meeting, it's done and over. You click on that settings option. You go to where the Meet section is. And then what I would do is I would reset the link. So the old one is gone and they can't click on it again and talk to each other. And I would turn it off until the next time I have a class meeting. And then the I is crossed out, meaning I can see it, but they cannot. So that is something that you can take advantage of if you want. But yeah, that's kind of the last feature that we have enough time to talk about. I'll be here for about 5-10 minutes to answer questions. Does anyone have questions real quick? I see there's a few different things. Andrew, no, the Google Classroom Gradebook cannot. You can't link it with PowerSchool, PowerTeacher. You can export the gradebook as a CSV file or like that spreadsheet Excel file. And then I believe you can figure out a way to put it into PowerSchool or PowerTeacher, but that's kind of like a difficult process. There's a lot of steps to that. So the gradebook kind of just works as a different way to track your students' grades as far as like how you would do it on paper. And then you can kind of input the grades into PowerTeacher later. Okay, Meet has froze on you like 8 times and 2 times you've used it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't had too many issues with Meet. I think it's a case-by-case thing, depending on internet and depending on like whoever's joining's internet. I haven't had an issue with Meet, and there's 120 people in this meeting. For me personally, I haven't had an issue. Maybe contact Google and see what's going on. But yeah, I haven't had a lot of issues with it. Let me see other questions.
Hey, Dew.
Yes.
I've had a few reports from people who are having issues with Google Meet freezing if they're using a different browser other than Chrome.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
So that could also possibly be the case. Meet only really works well in Chrome.
Yeah. So thanks, Paul. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yep.
I use Google Chrome all the time, and I've not had an issue with it. Destiny, do you use Google Chrome or is it something else? You can unmute your mic too if you want. Yes, you can email me if you need help. That's something I will do. Yeah, we can set up a personal meeting too if you want.
Hey, dude, I put in a ticket with the help desk and they told me to update the operating system on the MacBook. And then, so I did that, and then it won't allow Chrome to update. I keep getting like a fail error, but it didn't freeze today during this. Last time, or last week's session, it froze like 4 or 5. So.
Yeah, okay, that is unfortunate and frustrating. So sorry that happened. Yeah, imagine if it was frozen here with 120 of you here. That would not be fun. But yeah, that is good to know. Yeah, if you have issues like that, submit a support ticket. We'll try to help you out as fast as we can. Any other questions I missed here?
Yep, there's one here. Oh gosh, there were a bunch all at once. I'm trying.
Yeah, that'll happen, right? Because there's so many of you here. I'll just show you again. Look at all of you. Yes, wave everybody. Okay, what was the question, Paul?
Let's see, Raquel has a question from 952. When I made a quiz on forms, it only shows emails to identify the students.
Okay.
Can we see their full name?
Okay, so in that case, going back to that, you would have to then put a little name question then, and just not make it a quiz answer. So if I go back to my quiz, I would just put name, but don't make it answer key. And then that should work. You can make it required, so students fill it out, but don't put a point total to it, and it shouldn't grade it, and it shouldn't mess up your grading. So, yeah.
Samuel is asking if there are any links or additional resources for you teaching Google Classroom.
Yeah. So we actually have a lot of different resources, and I'll show you right now. If you don't mind staying a little bit, Paul, will you put one more time the evaluation link, and then everyone can fill that out and whatnot. But I'm going to post our website right in the chat as well, and that's their distance learning website. So from here, you can kind of see we have a bunch of resources for distance learning. We have our virtual PD sessions, and this is the one we offer to all of the consortium. So they cover a wide range of topics from Google Slides to Docs and whatnot. And then we have our recorded webinars, which you can kind of go see. We have Next Step with Google Classroom. We've got, Screencastify again, and Google Forms, Google Sites, Flipgrid, a lot of things that you can access there. We have our distance learning resources for parents and students, video conferencing. We have free virtual courses where you can go to these. REMC makes a really good Google Classroom course. EduPass makes a good course. And in your communication, I do teach a class for our consortium as well. It's called Getting Started. It's called Google Starter Kit, Google Classroom Starter Kit. It is a 3-week online course where we walk you through making a Google Classroom, and it's completely free. You get 6 sketches for completing the course and whatnot, but you have 3 weeks to kind of do all the work, and it's all online. And we teach you in short videos on each step on how to do Google Classroom. Yeah, but it's a completely free course. We're booked up for May and June. I think July and August are still open, but it is something that you can take advantage of. So that is there for you as well if you want sketches and you want to do more specific kind of step-by-step work. But that's a good resource. And then, of course, in our home page, we have distance learning, but to the very end here, we have tech tidbits. And if you click on that, we have a bunch of things on Google. Our classroom page is pretty good. So if you go to this top page here and go to Google Classroom, we've got a bunch of short videos on how to do things that CJ Walker has kind of made. Of course, and I've got one video. I'm a little newer to the team than CJ is, so he's been working on that, but I've got one as well. So yeah, any questions in that regard? Yeah, we hope you enjoyed the training. If you do have questions, feel free to email me. I will stick around for a little bit if you want to chat about anything. But other than that, I'm going to stop the recording and wish you a nice day. And hopefully you've had a